The Pico for Ultra is here, and that means that in this review, we are going to be talking about all the things that you need to know about this VR headset. So let's start it off with what comes inside the box. Because the Pico for Ultra only has one model that is sold at a price of about $600. And as you can see on the box, this includes 12GB of RAM and 256GB of storage. And when we finally open it up, we are directly greeted with the headset unit and the two complementary controllers, as well as some smaller boxes that include your accessories like USB-C cable, batteries, and glass spacer. But with all that stuff out, let's begin with taking a closer look at the hardware. Now from the outside, one major plus with all Pico headsets in general is that it directly includes a pro-like head strap, which in my opinion is a massive upgrade over the soft dual band strap that we see on so many other headsets. Because this improved design not only makes it easier to adjust, it also distributes the weight more evenly over the back of your head since the battery is built into it. And that means in practice that your headset will feel less front heavy and more comfortable to wear, especially if you're using it for longer gaming sessions. But another big change can be seen when we look at the front of the visor, because here you will find two new big camera modules that make it easier for you to distinguish between the basic Pico 4 model. Now these make it possible for the headset to be used with mixed reality. That means you can display objects like screens or even full-on games inside the normal surroundings of your home. And since more and more mixed reality titles are in the making as well as making its way onto the headset, this feature is overall a big upgrade towards some future releases. And that also comes to say that the cameras itself are 32 megapixels, which is much higher than a lot of other competitors out there. And this also will give you a much more accurate and clear image instead of those grainy old textures. But while there are still 4 other cameras that you can see on each corner, these are used for the tracking, but we'll have more on that later. Because one important thing that we should definitely talk about are the lenses. Since the Pico 4 Ultra rocks the newer pancake versions that make a night and day difference compared to the older Fresnel lenses, because these can now reduce the God rays and glare by a big margin, as well as give you a bigger sweet spot in which you can see the screen nice and sharp. But besides the headset, in the box we also have the controllers, and those got a massive makeover compared to the older ones of the original Pico 4. Not only did they completely ditch the ring design, they also make them more compact and ergonomic, while including all the buttons that you come to expect. On top of that, they integrated some improved haptics and are now equipped with 2 AA batteries per controller from the start, so they should last you a quite long time before you have to change them. But the Pico 4 Ultra also supports hand tracking. That means you can ditch your controllers completely and navigate through VR by just using your fingers. Although I did prefer the accuracy of the controllers more and chose to stick with this in most cases. But it is good to know that the option is there for those who want, which gets us directly to the next part, being the graphics and performance. Because the Pico 4 Ultra is using 2 high-resolution dual-screen displays that in combination with the previous mentioned lenses will make sure that your games always look clean and crisp. But one thing that also helps with this is their automatic IPD adjustment. This means that it can change the distance between your lenses much more precise compared to the older 3-level system that is still present in a lot of VR headsets. But maybe even more important is of course the chipset that powers it all. In this case, they are using the latest Snapdragon XR2 Generation 2 chip, and this is also known as the cutting-edge processor for standalone VR headsets. So it shouldn't have any problem at all running the latest games on it. But surprisingly though, it also has 12GB of RAM compared to the standard of 8GB, which gives it a bit more capacity to run its titles properly. But that gets us to the most unique feature of the Pico 4 Ultra, because for the first time you can choose to add some first-party motion sensors to your setup that can unlock full body tracking. And this is pretty damn cool, because if you are a big fan of social VR games, then being able to have full body tracking without needing any crazy expensive setup can be an absolute game changer. Now of course, do keep in mind that not all apps support these yet, so while it might still be a very niche addition, I do think it has some great potential. But we should also talk about the software, since the Pico OS regularly gets updates that add a bunch of new features to it. For example, they now unlock the phone screen mirroring that lets you display your mobile devices inside VR, as well as adding in a mouse and keyboard support that lets you multitask with hardware that you already have at home. But of course, these also include some smaller updates, from reduced warping distortion inside mixed reality to better controller and hand tracking so that you can pick objects with more precision, and with more and more of these kind of features being added over time. But that gets us to probably the most important part of all, which is the games. Luckily, Pico already has a big library of awesome titles that you can play on day one, and this list of course only keeps growing bigger every single day. But the coolest thing, that besides all these awesome experiences, they also often offer a lot of big deals. For example, during the Black Friday period, you would get the highly rated games known as Blade and Sorcery Nomad, Synth Riders, and Pistol Whip completely for free with your headset, as well as 1 month worth of VR Chat Plus, and even the previously mentioned trackers with it. Now the first game, Blade and Sorcery Nomad, will drop you in a medieval fantasy setting with an entire campaign mode thanks to the Crystal Hunt update. This lets you explore, fight, and cast magic throughout it. But it is of course mostly known for its realistic combat mechanics, which is all thanks to their physics-based system. But the overall world itself is also beautiful inside virtual reality. While on the other hand, the second title, known as Synth Riders, is a beat-based game that will give you a good workout at the same time. Because in here, you will have to hit balls and follow a pattern precisely on the tunes of some awesome music. But while that might sound simple at first, the difficulty can go to absolute god level and beyond. And for those who have already played it before, they now also completely redesigned their UI, giving you some big overall improvements. This goes from the new top menu that quickly lets you access challenges and experiences, so that you can explore these modes much more easily, as well as clean up the modifier menu and changes in its layout. But they of course also added in some general quality of life changes that improve navigation and visibility within the game. So basically, if you haven't already, you should definitely try out this game, especially since it's already included with it. While on the other side, the third title, which is known as Pistol Whip, is an action-packed rhythm shooter instead. So while you will still be following the beats of some catchy tunes, here you will be doing it while handling weapons to take out your enemies, all while also trying your best to dodge incoming fire, making it feel like you're basically John Wick inside the Matrix. But there are also so many other amazing games out there that you can already play on this headset, but this is just a glimpse of the ones that come with it. However, if you want to take up your VR gaming experience to the next level, then you can also choose to connect your headset wirelessly to a computer, and in that way play the entire Steam VR library that is available. This goes from things like Half-Life Alyx or Bone Lab that truly push what is possible inside virtual reality. But that gets us to the final conclusion. The Pico 4 Ultra has some big improvements over the previous version, while also keeping the good things like the upgraded head strap that comes with it. But it is thanks to those new improvements like the pancake lenses, the higher resolution screens, and the XR2 Generation 2 chip that the overall experience is so much clearer and sharper looking that it is hard to go back to the headsets that still are rocking the older Fresnel lenses. Of course, the new high resolution color cameras that finally unlock mixed reality for the Pico 4 Ultra is also a welcome upgrade. But the biggest surprise is that while the headset comes in at $600, they have quite a lot of big discounts that include some must-play VR games, as well as the cool full-body trackers that we haven't really seen anywhere else. Although, do keep in mind that this headset isn't yet available worldwide, so you might not be able to get it depending on the region that you live in. But that's not all, because if you want to see the Pico 4 Ultra compared to the Meta Quest 3S, then click on the video that you see on screen right now to make sure you don't miss out. And of course, stay awesome.